My husband insisted we open our marriage so I could explore my freedom, so I did, only for him to vanish the moment I took him up on it, leaving me heartbroken, financially ruined, and questioning every promise he ever made. My name is Emma, and the love of my life is Oliver. We've been best friends for nearly 7 years and deeply in love for over 4. Oliver is everything I've ever wanted in a partner. He's kind, handsome, and financially secure with a solid job. He's been working hard since he was 15 and has never once regretted it. He's a true man, someone who takes pride in working hard and providing for his family. Oliver grew up by the sea, while I'm from the capital city. We got married 2 years after we met, just a month after falling in love at 19. My parents supported us fully, but his family wasn't on board at first. They actually accused me of trapping him into marriage even though I was a virgin and had no children. It didn't make any sense. I'd been working hard myself, starting at a hotel front desk job when I was just 17. Oliver had a previous relationship, or maybe 2, although he only admits to 1. Still, I don't understand why his family blamed me for anything. Despite the rocky start, they eventually came around and accepted me. Now, we're all close, and there's genuine love and trust between us. Oliver and I have been married and in love for almost 4 years, and we're genuinely happy. I take care of our home, cook, clean, and make sure he feels appreciated in every way, including in our intimate life. I never turn him down, and we're still crazy about each other. He fulfills every part of my desire, and I wouldn't trade him for the world. But here's where things started to get complicated. I've been working with a man named Duran at the hotel since the beginning. He's 32 and handles maintenance and janitorial work. And let me say this loud and clear, I have absolutely no romantic or physical attraction to Duran. He's just a good person going through a really tough time. Duran's wife cheated on him and left, taking their son with her. A paternity test later revealed the boy wasn't even his. It was a devastating betrayal. Duran, who's loved by everyone at work, was shattered. For the first time in 13 years, he called out of work. He had never missed a single day before that. I was seriously worried about him, both as a friend and as a coworker. I wanted to help lift his spirits, so I started inviting him to eat lunch with me and the rest of our coworkers. We'd sit in the break room or outside, enjoying some sunshine and casual conversation. Duran confessed that he felt like less of a man after what his wife did. He was convinced no woman would ever want him again, and it tore him up inside. I told him that wasn't true, that any woman would be lucky to have someone like him. He's gentle, kind, a good provider, and a caring father. I'll get more into that part later. As the weeks went by and we kept talking, I started to get an idea. What if I helped Duran rebuild his confidence and sense of manhood? At the same time, I could explore something I'd never experienced, being with a different man besides Oliver. That curiosity had always lingered in the back of my mind. I waited for the right time and brought it up with Oliver. After dinner, once everything was cleaned up, I sat down and shared my thoughts with him. At first, he just laughed, thinking I was joking. He gave me this wild look, like I'd lost my mind. But I told him I was serious and explained why I thought this might be good for Duran and for me. I reminded him he had nothing to worry about, that I wasn't attracted to Duran at all. But Oliver got really upset. He stormed off to our bedroom and slammed the door. He didn't lock it though, and I knew what he needed. I undressed and followed him in. We can never resist each other, even after 4 years. I gave him all of me, and we fell asleep that night wrapped in love, just like always. I gave it. A day before bringing it up again, I asked him if he'd thought more about it, if he'd be open to giving his blessing. He flat out said no. He warned that if I ever went through with it, he'd divorce me and never speak to me again, not even as a friend. I accepted that answer and just said okay. Then I sat next to him on the couch to watch a movie. Later that evening, I offered him a treat and we ended up spending the night cuddling together, still deeply in love. But something had changed. I started to notice Oliver wasn't all there with me. He seemed distant. He wasn't reacting the same way to my touch or to the meals I cooked. He was spending more time outside on the phone or whispering in the spare room. I started to get suspicious, but there was no clear proof of anything. A few more days went by, and then it was Sunday. After church, Oliver was getting ready for his annual 4-day fishing trip with his family. It's a tradition they have, and I've never minded. I understand that men need time to connect and recharge. Right before he left, I decided to bring up my idea one last time. He looked frustrated but stayed calm and said, "Emma, you're an adult. I can't control your choices. If you really want to be with another man." I couldn't stop him. I'd already shared my feelings. I hugged him, kissed him, and thanked him for understanding. But he gave me a strange look before getting in his car and driving off. Before Oliver left, he reminded me to remember what he'd told me. I told him I loved him and continued sending affectionate messages and texts that night. The next day at lunch, I met with Doran and told him my idea. He was totally caught off guard. He hadn't seen it coming. At first, he turned me down, saying he couldn't be involved with a married woman. I explained that my husband didn't agree with it but had allowed it, and more importantly, it was something I wanted. Doran spent Monday night thinking it over and couldn't sleep. When we met again on Tuesday, he said yes on the condition that both my husband and I were truly okay with it, and that it would be strictly physical, nothing emotional. I told him clearly I wasn't attracted to him. He was a good man, but not someone I desired in any way. So, that Tuesday night, I went to Doran's house. It was a small, cozy place. We had our encounter, used protection, and there was no kissing or emotional affection, just the act itself. Doran seemed satisfied quickly. For me, it was about settling my curiosity. It wasn't memorable or meaningful, just something I wanted to check off. Later that night, I sent Oliver a message to let him know everything had gone fine. I told him Doran's confidence had been restored and that I'd found the answer I was looking for. I reassured him that I'd never be with another man again, only him, my love. I made it clear this was a physical experience, with protection, and no feelings, nothing like what I share with Oliver. To be honest, I texted Oliver because I was afraid of how he'd react. He didn't reply that night, and I couldn't sleep. I was too anxious. Thankfully, he texted the next morning, saying he'd be coming back Saturday instead of Friday. I didn't love the idea of waiting to extra days, but I appreciated that he understood and was still showing love. The next day, Doran and I had lunch. He thanked me for everything, for the experience, and for helping him regain his confidence and self-worth. He also told me the court had granted him 50% custody of his son, even though he wasn't the biological father. I was happy for him and told him that now that our purpose was fulfilled, we didn't need to keep meeting for lunch or anything else. He understood, thanked me again, and promised he wasn't someone who lied or played games. During that time, I kept sending Oliver sweet texts and intimate photos, but his boat had terrible reception. His responses were rare and mostly short, saying how much he looked forward to seeing me Saturday. I was full of love and excitement, counting the days. But then, everything changed. On Friday, after a long day of work and shopping for Oliver's favorite things, I came home to an empty apartment. Divorce papers were on the counter with a note. It read, "Thank you, and I wish you the best with Doran." It was signed by Oliver. I broke down crying. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. This wasn't him. He would never do this on his own. It had to be his family's influence. He took everything: furniture, silverware, cups, glasses, linens. Our king-size bed was gone, replaced with a twin bed that looked like it came from his nephew's room. He left behind a small TV, a chair, one saucepan, and one frying pan. I had paper plates, plastic utensils, paper cups, some toilet paper, and paper towels. The only things left that were mine were my clothes, makeup, and toiletries. I tried calling Oliver, but he had blocked me. I reached out to his mom and sister, blocked his dad and brother too. That's when it hit me. Oliver must have been speaking with an attorney while he was away or staying in the guest room. It felt like he had started planning this right after I made the suggestion. I couldn't believe how cold and calculated it felt. Then I read the divorce agreement. It instructed me to only communicate through his lawyer and to have no direct contact with him. That shattered me. I ended up calling the attorney to understand what was happening and how I was supposed to survive. I told him I couldn't afford the apartment on my own. The lawyer said Oliver had paid the rent and utilities for the last 3 months left on our lease, but I'd be responsible for things like internet, video service, and my phone bill. He also told me that Oliver had already ended the lease and that if I wanted to stay, I'd have to renew it myself. I don't know how I'll manage. How can someone treat the person they claim to love this way? I gave him everything: my love, my care, cooking, cleaning, errands, whatever he needed, he got. Now I'm standing on the edge. I couldn't sleep that night. The next day, I decided to go to Oliver's job site. I found out he had asked to work by the shore, around 100 kilometers away. He's a concrete worker, one of the best, especially for his age. I asked the foreman to pass along a message that I was there and that I loved him. The foreman said he would tell him. I was drowning in grief. It felt like I'd lost someone to death. I confided in a friend and co-worker, and even she was shocked. She reminded me she'd joked about the idea but never thought I'd actually go through with it. She said, "That was just girl talk. I didn't think you'd do it." The next day, I took a bus to the seaport since I don't drive and went to Oliver's parents' house. They didn't exactly welcome me, but they let me in and gave me food and coffee. I explained how everything was a misunderstanding and how deeply I loved Oliver. They were kind, but his mom said he didn't want to see me again and asked that I not try to contact him anymore. I told her I couldn't do that, he's my whole world. But Oliver was working far away, and his family made it clear I couldn't stay there. So I took the bus back to my empty apartment. I cried the whole way home, and I kept crying all through the night. I even had to take the next day off work just to pull myself together. Now I really need your help. How do I win back my husband's love and fix this mess? I'm not asking for judgment or criticism, believe me. I've already gotten more than enough of that from a previous post. What I need now are real, practical steps to get the love of my life back, because I can't keep living like this. Any help you can offer would mean the world to me. Update 1. Let me clear up some things a few of you have asked. Yes, I believe in God and in the sacredness of marriage. Do you? And no, I never cheated on my husband. I love him deeply and would never do something like that. Honestly, it's kind of bold of anyone to even suggest it. I do think I'm a good woman. Tell me, how many 24-year-old women do you know who've only ever been with one man and had one other? Latex experience? Exactly. None, unless maybe they're nuns. No, I have zero plans to be involved with Doran in any way beyond being co-workers. There's no attraction there, no emotional connection. It was purely an act of kindness on my part. I genuinely enjoy helping people, and I believe God sees that. That's who I answer to, not random strangers on the internet. I'm not interested in anyone else now or ever. Maybe instead of questioning me, you should ask your own partner these same things. Oh, right, maybe you're afraid of the answers. No, I never disrespected Oliver. You don't even know my husband, so who are you to comment on his masculinity? I know who he is, and I know he's more of a man than any of you could ever be. I haven't told my parents or other relatives about what happened, but I know in my heart that if they knew the full story, they'd be proud that I helped someone in need. It was an act of compassion, not betrayal. Also, to the folks in this group, no, I don't want to sleep with any of you. Many of you are just bitter and mean-spirited. Update 2. It breaks my heart to give this update, but here it is. It's been a month since my husband left, and I feel completely hollow and heartbroken. I've tried everything to reach him: calls, messages, even using other people's phones, but he's ignoring me. I poured my heart out in messages, hoping something would reach him. I even had Doran call Oliver to thank him for saving his life and tell him that he sees him as a great man. Doran made it clear there's no love between us, just professional respect and appreciation. Still, Oliver never responded. I finally told my parents and brother about the divorce, thinking maybe I'd get some support, but they were furious. They couldn't see what I saw: a good deed. All they saw was betrayal. No matter how many times I explained it wasn't cheating, they refused to believe me. They were disgusted and even told me I should go to confession every day for the next year. But you know what? Only God gets to judge me, not my family. And definitely not strangers online. Final update. I wasn't planning to post again, but a few kind souls asked for an update, so here it is. I really wish I could block all the rude people who left hateful comments, but whatever. So here's where things stand. I'm living at a community hostel now because my lease ended and I can't afford rent in the city. It's not ideal, but it's temporary. I could have gone back to my parents, but I didn't. They don't understand where I'm coming from. As for the divorce, it's official. It might even be the fastest one in the country's history. Lucky me, right? I'm still trusting that God has a plan for me. The judge who handled the case was clearly old-fashioned and didn't seem to care about women's perspectives at all. He looked at everything I did and called it cheating, ignoring the fact that I helped save someone's life. I told the court that Oliver had given me permission, but when they asked him and his lawyer, they denied it. They said, "No, Your Honor, I did not." What Oliver had actually said to me was, "You're a grown woman. I can't stop you." He also warned me before that he'd divorce me if I went through with it. The judge asked me why I still went through with it, and honestly, my lawyer and I were stunned. We didn't know what to say. The judge said we didn't have to answer, but he granted the divorce anyway. He awarded me about $7,000, which Oliver has to pay within 90 days. That's it. 4 years of love, intimacy, cooking, cleaning, running errands, and taking care of this man when he was sick, all of it reduced to €6,000. If I'd been working regular jobs that whole time, I'd have made over €200,000. Do I think I should have gotten that much? No, but €6,000? That's just sad. Why don't people value women's efforts in marriage more? If any of you in the comments have an answer for that, I'd love to hear it. This will be my last post. I'm done trying to reason with people who clearly don't care to listen. I'm exhausted. Instead, I'm focusing all my time and energy on trying to win Oliver back over the next year. I even left him a voicemail telling him I'm not going to date anyone else. Not for a year, maybe never. I told him he's welcome at my new apartment anytime, for any kind of affection he needs. I gave him the address and told him I'll be waiting. I still believe that one day, he'll show up at my door. And when he does, I'll open it, and there he'll be my dream man, Oliver, ready to hold me in his arms and kiss me again. Then, we'll start over, maybe have kids, share love every day, live happily ever after. Merry Christmas to everyone out there. And may God bless you all, even the ones who don't like me, and especially the ones who don't like themselves. Okay, that's one wild story down. Now let's get ready for the next one. Stick around, because we're about to dive into something new. This happened over 5 years ago, and honestly, I still haven't fully recovered from it. Back then, John was 31. And my girlfriend Lisa was 29. We'd been in a loving, committed relationship for 3 years. Or at least, that's what I thought. I guess you could say fate brought us together at a cocktail event at a local art museum. Funny enough, neither of us cared much for modern art, but we were both there with friends and ended up hitting it off immediately. What started as casual dating quickly turned into something serious. We committed to each other because the chemistry was just undeniable. About a year into our relationship, Lisa brought up the idea of moving in together. She was excited to take the next step, but I wasn't ready yet and told her as much. So, we kept living separately, but we spent almost every night together 6 out of 7 days a week, and our bond only grew stronger. Over the next year, she gently pushed the idea again, wanting to build a life together under the same roof. On our 2nd anniversary, I finally agreed. We moved in together, and honestly, everything felt perfect. Even after being together for more than 2 years, our intimacy was still alive and exciting. Once things settled, Lisa began to drop hints about getting married and starting a family. I told her I could see that future with her, but I wanted us to use this time living together to really figure out if we were ready for that big commitment. Then, 3 months after we moved in, I got a phone call from Lisa while I was at work. She told me she missed her period and thought she might be pregnant. I was stunned. Lisa had been on birth control and claimed she never missed a single pill. So, I chalked it up to the small chance of failure. It happens about 9% of the time. After we hung up, I went through every emotion you could think of: fear, shock, confusion. But the more I sat with it, the more excited I got. The thought of becoming a father started to fill me with joy. That night, I drove home feeling on top of the world. When I saw Lisa, I hugged and kissed her, sharing how thrilled I was, and she lit up too. As the weeks passed, she started bringing up marriage again. I told her I still wasn't ready, but maybe after the baby was born, we could talk about it seriously. She understood, but kept bringing it up, always reminding me how much she wanted to be my wife and build a family with me. We spent the next few months preparing for the baby, turning the spare room into a beautiful nursery. I spared no expense. Everything, from the crib to the decorations, was top tier. Things were going so smoothly that during Lisa's 7th month of pregnancy, I proposed. I got down on one knee and asked her to marry me. She cried out, "Yes, yes, yes, I'll marry you, John." We were over the moon. I suggested a simple civil ceremony at City Hall the next month and a big celebration later after the baby arrived. She was totally on board. We set a date, but just a few days before the wedding, the baby had other plans. Lisa went into labor at and by 9, we were holding a healthy baby boy. I was right there in the delivery room with her, helping through every moment. But as soon as I saw the baby, my heart sank. He had jet black hair, a deep brown complexion. He looked Hispanic. Both Lisa and I, along with our families, are Northern European. Light hair, fair skin. No one in either family has Hispanic roots. When they handed the baby to Lisa, I looked at her face. She tried to play it cool, but I could tell she was just as shocked as I was. My chest felt tight, but I kept calm. Lisa asked me to hold the baby, and I did, trying to hold back tears. I wanted so badly to believe he was mine, but deep down, I knew. I gently handed him back and told her I was going to let our parents know the good news. Out in the waiting room, I shared the birth announcement. Everyone went in to see Lisa and the baby, and I stepped outside to clear my head. I found a little park area near a stream behind the hospital and completely broke down. I cried hard, knowing deep in my heart that today I lost the woman I loved and the baby I was ready to raise. After about 30 minutes, my phone rang. It was my mom. She asked if I was okay. I said, "I think so." She replied, "Son, I understand why you walked out." I told her, "Mom, the baby's not mine." She said, "I know, and I'll support whatever you decide to do." That gave me the strength I needed. I cleaned myself up in the restroom and returned to the room. By then, it was just Lisa, her parents, and my mom. The baby had been taken to the nursery, and Lisa looked wiped out. I told everyone Lisa needed rest, and we all stepped out. As we left, Lisa asked me to stay with her. I gently said, "Babe, you need to get some sleep. We hung out in the cafeteria for a few hours, then headed back upstairs. I let her parents visit first, and after about half an hour, they told me Lisa wanted to see me. I walked in and sat by her side. She smiled and said how happy she was, then asked if I felt the same. I said I was glad she and the baby were okay. She picked up on my vibe and said, "You seem distant. What's wrong?" I said, "We need to talk." She asked, "Talk about what?" And I said, "The baby." She looked confused and said, "What about the baby?" I replied, "Lisa, the baby clearly isn't mine." She snapped back, "He is yours. Who else could it be?" I said, "You tell me." She started crying. I gave her time to let it out, then asked again, "Who's the father?" She sobbed and said, "You are." I looked at her and said, "Please, don't lie to me." She fell silent, staring into space. Finally, she whispered, "I'm so sorry, John. I cheated, but I want you to be the baby's father." I said no. I asked again, "Who's the father?" She finally admitted it, her ex. They had been together for over 5 years, and he had visited 8 months ago. They hooked up once, in our apartment. I stood up and walked to the window, watching the traffic. Lisa asked if this meant we were over. I told her yes. I couldn't trust her ever again. She begged for another chance, but I said no. Then I told her she had to tell our families the truth, right now. She pleaded with me not to, but I stood firm. I said, "You're not coming back to our apartment after you're discharged." She cried and begged again. I just said, no. I walked out and brought our parents back in. Lisa's dad noticed her tears and asked what was going on. I told Lisa to explain. She couldn't speak, so I told them myself. Everyone started crying. Her parents were completely distraught. I told them Lisa would be going home with them tomorrow and I'd have her stuff and the nursery packed up and moved to their house. Lisa cried nonstop. I turned to my mom and said, "Let's go." Lisa screamed after me, "John, don't leave me. I love you." I'm sorry, but I walked out. Her parents stayed to comfort her. On the way home, Lisa called, "Please, John, don't end it like this." I told her, "I didn't end it. You did. The trust is gone, and the woman I fell in love with doesn't exist anymore." She kept begging, but I stayed silent, then hung up. The next morning, her dad came with his van. We packed all her stuff, including the nursery, and took it to their house. I helped set it up, even though I was emotionally crushed. Her mom asked if I'd ever consider giving Lisa another chance. I told her I couldn't, not just because of the betrayal, but because I couldn't raise a child that wasn't mine. After we finished, her dad drove me home. I spent the rest of the day crying. Over the next week, Lisa kept calling and texting over 100 times. She said she loved me and begged for a second chance. Eventually, she stopped asking me to marry her and instead suggested we just keep dating like before. I didn't respond. Eventually, the messages stopped. This has been the hardest chapter of my life. I have no intention of being part of Lisa or her son's life, but sometimes I think maybe one day, when he's 21, I'll take him out for a beer. I'd thank him for showing up early and saving me from marrying his mother. My advice to every man out there: if you're expecting a child, get a paternity test before the birth. It might just save you years of pain and heartbreak. In the weeks that followed, I felt like I was living someone else's life, like I was watching a movie where I was the lead, but I had no control over the script. I couldn't eat much, couldn't sleep properly, and every time I closed my eyes, I saw Lisa's face in that hospital room, crying and pleading. A part of me hated her, but another part of me, probably the more human part, felt sorry for her. Still, sorry wasn't enough to fix what had been broken. I started going for long walks after work. I'd take a path through a nearby park and just wander, letting my thoughts run wild, while trying to make sense of everything. People would smile at me in passing, and I'd smile back like everything was normal. But inside, I was hollow. I'd lost not just a partner, I'd lost the version of the future I'd been dreaming about for years. Friends tried to reach out. Some offered to hang out, some wanted to grab drinks, others just sent texts saying, "Thinking of you." I appreciated the gestures, but I wasn't ready to talk. I needed time. I needed space. So I turned inward and focused on putting one foot in front of the other, day by day. A few weeks after everything happened, Lisa's mother texted me. She said Lisa had been struggling badly, barely eating, barely sleeping. She didn't ask for anything, didn't try to convince me to come back. She just wanted me to know that her daughter was hurting. I stared at the message for a long time before finally replying, "I'm sorry she's hurting. I am too, but I can't be her comfort anymore." That night, I deleted our photos together from my phone. I backed them up to a hard drive, not because I wanted to keep them, but because I wasn't ready to erase everything completely. That part of my life had happened, and even though it ended painfully, it was real. There was love in it. There were memories worth preserving, just not reliving. I also made an appointment with a therapist. I needed someone objective to help me untangle the mess in my mind. During those sessions, I talked about everything: the way we met, how we fell in love, how I second-guessed moving in together, and how I ignored that small, persistent gut feeling that something wasn't quite right. My therapist listened, never judged, and slowly helped me rebuild my sense of self. Around the third session, I asked, "Is it normal to grieve someone who's still alive?" She looked at me and said, "Absolutely. You're not just grieving a person, you're grieving a version of your life that doesn't exist anymore." That helped more than I expected. It gave me permission to mourn the dream, not just the person. Meanwhile, Lisa eventually stopped reaching out. I think she finally understood that I wasn't coming back. A mutual friend later told me she had started co-parenting with the child's biological father. Apparently, he stepped up after finding out he was the dad. I won't pretend to know how that dynamic works or whether it will last, but I do wish the child a stable, loving home. He didn't ask to be brought into this world under those circumstances. As for me, I've started slowly reclaiming my life. I took a solo trip to Colorado, just me, the mountains, and a journal. I hiked during the day, rode at night, and found peace in the silence. Being alone didn't feel lonely anymore. It felt necessary, healing. I've also reconnected with some old hobbies: guitar, photography, cooking, things I used to enjoy but had pushed aside during the chaos of the relationship. I'm not trying to distract myself. I'm trying to rediscover who I was before everything, and maybe even find someone new within that. I don't hate Lisa. I want to be clear about that. She made a terrible choice. Yes, she betrayed my trust in one of the most personal and painful ways possible. But I also believe people can be deeply flawed and still human, still capable of regret. I just couldn't be the one to fix what she broke. I've learned a lot from all of this. I've learned that love isn't always enough. That trust, once shattered, can't always be rebuilt. That instincts matter, and ignoring them can cost you dearly. And perhaps most importantly, I've learned that protecting your peace sometimes means walking away from someone you love. To any man or woman who's reading this and going through something similar, I want to say this: you are not weak for walking away. You are not heartless for protecting your own future. And you are not broken beyond repair. Give yourself time. Be gentle with yourself. You'll come out the other side stronger, even if it doesn't feel like it right now. As for me, I'm still on that journey. Some days are better than others. Some mornings I wake up feeling free. Other mornings I still feel the weight of what could have been. But I no longer cry myself to sleep. I no longer wait for a text that will never come. I'm moving forward, slowly, but surely. And one day, when I'm sitting in a bar and a 21-year-old kid with black hair and a familiar face walks in, maybe I'll buy him a drink. Not because I'm his father, but because he unknowingly saved me from a lifetime of uncertainty. He doesn't know it yet, but his early arrival gave me the clarity I needed to make the hardest decision of my life. And for that, I'll be quietly grateful. Until then, I'll keep walking my path, alone, but healing, wiser, stronger, and more at peace than I've ever been.